Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a really disturbing case, the Nithari Killings. You might have heard it called India's House of Horrors.
Yeah, it's a tough one. We're talking about events back in 2006, happened in Noida, Sector 31. Looked like just any other residential area, really.
Yeah.
House number D5.
Right, seemed completely normal on the surface, but what kicked it all off was a search for a missing child, wasn't it?
Exactly. That search sort of peeled back the layers on something truly sinister. They started finding human remains.
And not just one set. It quickly became clear this wasn't isolated.
No, definitely not. The sheer number pointed to something systematic, something that had been going on for a while, undetected.
Which is just chilling to think about. In a regular house, on a regular street.
And the focus quickly fell on two people living there. Moninder Singh Pandher, he owned the house, a businessman, and his domestic help, Surinder Koli.
Yeah, Koli became the main suspect pretty fast. The police alleged some truly horrific things.
Uh-huh. We're talking about murder, sexual assault, specifically targeting children in many cases, and even the claims of cannibalism, and then just discarding the body parts near the house.
It's almost unbelievable, the depravity of it.
And the initial discovery, I mean, the scale was staggering. Remains of at least 19 people.
19. And mostly children and young adults. Found near a drain right behind the house.
Just awful. And you have to think about the families.
Oh, absolutely. Some of them had been searching for their missing kids for, what, months?
Oh.
Even years in some cases.
Yeah, living that nightmare, not knowing. And the whole time, the answer might have been right there, so close.
Which brings up that difficult aspect, doesn't it? The initial response.
Right. There were suggestions, reports, really, that the local police maybe hadn't taken the first missing person reports that seriously.
Because the victims were mostly from poorer families, migrant workers.
That was the allegation, yeah. That perhaps their disappearances weren't given the priority they should have been. It raises questions about, potential bias.
It's a grim thought, isn't it? That maybe if those first reports had been acted on differently.
Exactly. Could things have been stopped sooner? Could lives have been saved? We don't know, but the question hangs there.
It seems like it wasn't until the sheer number of remains became undeniable and hit the national news that the investigation really ramped up.
Which often happens, when something gets that much media attention. The pressure mounts, and then, of course, the legal process started. And that was complicated, to say the least.
Yeah, Koli confessed, didn't he? But then later took it back.
He did. He confessed to the murders, but later claimed he was forced, that the confession was coerced by the police.
Which happens sometimes, but it definitely muddies the waters, makes it harder to feel certain about what was established in court.
Absolutely. It casts doubt. And then you've got the homeowner, Pandher.
Right. He was convicted initially for some of the murders, too, wasn't he?
He was, yes. But then several of those convictions were overturned on appeal.
Why was that? Lack of evidence?
Pretty much. The higher courts found there wasn't enough direct evidence linking him specifically to those killings, beyond a reasonable doubt.
So he was acquitted in those specific cases, which leaves a lot of questions unanswered about his role, doesn't it?
It really does. The big one being, did he know? Could all this have been happening in his house, allegedly by his employee, without his knowledge?
It seems hard to believe, but legally, the evidence wasn't there for some of the charges.
Correct. An acquittal means the prosecution didn't meet the burden of proof for those specific charges. It doesn't necessarily mean innocence in the way people might think colloquially, but it means not proven guilty in court.
So that ambiguity remains. Was he involved? Did he just turn a blind eye? Or was he genuinely unaware?
We just don't have a definitive answer from the legal process on that for all the cases, and that lack of clarity is, well, deeply unsatisfying for many.
Especially for the families. And adding to their pain, not all the victims were even identified, were they?
No. Tragically, no. Some remains couldn't be identified. So some families never got that final, heartbreaking confirmation. No closure.
Just layers upon layers of tragedy.
This whole case, though, it definitely shook things up in India. It forced a hard look at policing, accountability.
How the justice system treats or maybe overlooks marginalized communities.
Exactly. And also forensic capabilities, how to handle crime scenes of this magnitude and horror.
Yeah, you dig into this and it really throws up some fundamental questions. About class, about privilege, maybe.
About how seriously a missing child report is taken, depending on who the child is, where they come from.
And whether the system failed those families in the early stages. Could more have been done?
And ultimately, I think the biggest question is, Did we ever get the full story?
Right, what really happened inside D5? Was Koli acting entirely alone?
The courts convicted Koli based on the evidence presented for specific cases. But was he the only one involved in everything that happened there? Was anyone else culpable, maybe shielded somehow?
These are the questions that linger, aren't they? Long after the headlines fade. Difficult questions for you, the listener, to think about too. What truly happened in that house?